The 2024-25 Women's Super League is on the horizon. In preparation, we're previewing every single team and discussing how they'll shape up over the next campaign. We take a look at the transfer business conducted by the teams so far and offer suggestions of who else they should move for before the season gets underway. Today, we conclude the series with West Ham. After an 11th place finish last season, the threat of relegation will worry the Hammers fans, especially considering how difficult their transfer window has been so far. We discuss how their squad looks and what their chances of survival are. This is our 2024-25 season preview for West Ham. Alright, let's talk about West Ham then. We're going to start by looking at last season, talking about what went wrong. It was definitely a season that felt very negative for West Ham. They're the lowest side in the league not to be relegated, of course, finishing in 11th. It felt like a very difficult campaign for West Ham. And actually, their business wasn't too bad. They signed players like Katrina Gorey, like Christy Mewis, and there was a lot of excitement about the West Ham side, but it didn't really materialise into good performances on the pitch. They had a couple standout moments, but overall the quality wasn't great. And in a division where the relegation fight was a bit tighter, they may have found themselves in a bad position.
Yeah, very much so. I do think it was a really weird campaign because, as you say, they went and got a win at home to Arsenal and big results like that. But that was, three of the very few points they did pick up. I do think they were slightly fortunate, as you say, that Bristol City were as poor as they were. And I definitely think they've got to be careful. They've got to look behind them. But realistically, the window, the team, everyone at the club needs to be making sure, yes, they need to be checking on who's behind them in terms of Crystal Palace coming up, but they need to push forwards. They need to climb up the table this year because 11th was really disappointing. They've made a lot of transfers. They've done what we're dealings, but that isn't enough. West Ham last season, it was a really tough, and they need to improve on that.
Yeah, and I think, to be fair, if we cut them some slack, the gap between them and 9th, so them, Everton, I think it was Brighton in 9th, it was only about 1 or 2 points. So it's very tight down there. But if they are only 1 or 2 points off the other sides this year, I think that may be them relegated. So they are in a bit of a difficult situation. But let's look at how they're trying to address that in the transfer market. We'll start with the outgoings. The first one was a big one, Mackenzie Arnold joining Portland Thorns. I had a lot of doubts when they lost Mackenzie Arnold about their ability to stay out this season. They have done very well to replace her, actually, but still a huge loss. A goalkeeper that's really been very reliable for them. I think they'll miss her this season. Yeah,
very much so. A very, very good goalkeeper, a very experienced goalkeeper as well. And I think Arnold will go and do brilliantly in the NWSL. She'll have a really good campaign for West Ham. It's a big loss, but it's about replacing her, and that's what they've done.
Yeah, I think they've replaced her very adequately, as we'll talk about when we get into the incoming section. Hawa Sissoko has gone to AS Roma, another player who was a standout for them last season, scored that excellent goal against Arsenal, which obviously has just been on every highlights reel, just constantly on my mind, actually, just Hawa Sissoko scoring screamers. But yeah, it's going to be a real loss again in that defensive area. I think Sissoko's quite an accomplished defender. There's a reason that AS Roma in the Serie A want to go and pick her up. So, yeah, again, it's another one they've lost out on a free. And then following that theme, Hanoko Hayashi joining Everton as well on a free transfer. That's 3 players there who were like their best players last season, bar maybe Katrina Gorey and their attackers. And they've lost them all, and it definitely upsets the balance of their midfield and defence, and obviously losing their goalkeeper as well. So, big losses in those areas. Hayashi, a really solid defence midfielder. Yeah. And partnered up nicely next to Gorey last season. Then they've sold Risa Shimizu to Manchester City, who's gone on and done her ACL. So, in the end, not a terrible deal for West Ham. Horrible for Shimizu, and we hope she recovers soon. But obviously, a player who can cover a lot of positions for West Ham, could play right back, centre back, defence midfield, right wing back, right midfield, central midfield. Anywhere on the right-hand side of the pitch or the centre, she could cover. So, a really useful, versatile player. It's probably why Manchester City have picked her up. But yeah, it's going to be a big loss as well for West Ham. They just seem to be losing a lot of quality players. Emma Snell has gone to Fiorentina. I don't think this is a huge loss. It's an okay player, nice rotation option, but not a huge loss. Abile Stringer has gone to DC Power FC. Yeah. Again, great name. I love some of the American names, but it's not a player I think they're going to miss all that much. And then they've got 2 players that they've bought and then since loaned out, which I don't really understand because they're defensive options. They're both fullbacks, I believe. They don't have enough fullbacks at the club. No. And yet they've bought these fullbacks in and then loaned them out. I don't get it. I really don't get it. But they're Shakira Martinez and Inez Belumu. They're both players who I think could have done a job for them this season.
Potentially, yeah.
And yet they've loaned him out. So I don't really understand that. And then Mel Phillips has gone to Charlton. Not a huge loss in my opinion. So let's look at incomings then. Now the goalkeeper that they've signed, I'm very excited about. Let's look at her FBref profile. It's Kinga Zemic. Really exciting. She played for Stade de Reims last season, obviously managed by Amandine Miquel. We spoke a lot about her in the Leicester video. She's just become the Leicester manager, and she took over Noemi Mouchon and Chosanote to Leicester. Yeah. Reims are very good last year. They finished 4th in the league, and to go and pick up their goalkeeper is a very good signing. If you look at her profile, Zemic was very good last season. Her post-shot expected goals minus goals against statistic, which sounds confusing, but it's 0.28. So basically, for the XG, which is the expected goals of a shot registered at her, minus how many goals she allowed, she was in the positive.
So she conceded less than the shots she faced?
Yes.
Which you'd like to think is a goalkeeper.
0.28. That is in the 90th percentile for goalkeepers in the women's top 9 competitions. So very strong numbers there. Save percentage up at 77.8%. So, yeah, saved a lot of her shots. Penalty save percentage at 50%. Clean sheet percentage at 40.9%. Saves 4.73 per 90. That's in the 92nd percentile amongst those top 9 competitions. Really good numbers. Really good numbers in saving things. Her passing stats aren't quite as high, aren't quite as interesting, but she is a very good shot stopper. And for a side that are battling at the bottom, a shot stopper is what you need. Someone who will stop the ball going in the back of the net is the paramount objective of a goalkeeper. It's not to play out from the back. I think Kinga Zemic definitely does that very well.
Yeah, 100%. She's a type of goalkeeper that just denies goals, and that can be crucial if you're 1-0 up in a game, if you're 2-1 up, or you're hanging on for a point somewhere. She can make a game-defining save. She has that ability, very similar to Arnold as well. We've seen Arnold put off some phenomenal saves, and I'm sure that Zemic will have her own highlights reel come the end of the season of some phenomenal saves. Brilliant goal. I mean, the 50% penalty save percentage as well. I mean, that's incredible. To think for a goalkeeper to save half the penalties they face is ridiculously strong. Yeah. Because if you give away 8 penalties in the season, you're not going to concede 4 of them. But also not that it's relative. But that is incredible. That's incredible numbers. But a very very strong goalkeeper. And if the back line, as long as the back line don't give her too much to work with, I do think that she'll have a really strong season.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the numbers are in the women's game, but on your penalty number there, I know that in the men's game, 87% of penalties are scored by the attacker. Yeah. So Zemic massively outperforming the usual statistics there. I'm not 100% what the women's are. I imagine it would be fairly similar, but yeah, still really good stuff from Kinga Zemic. Let's look at the rest of their signings then. Shakira Martinez, a good wide player, but a good fullback, coming in from Eintracht Frankfurt. They have then loaned her out to Freiburg. Camille Says coming in from Madrid CFF. A good signing, I think, and really nice centre-back option. She's a left-footed centre-half, so she'll rotate with Shelina Zadorsky, who we'll talk about in a moment. Yeah, I think this is a fairly good option. 28 years old. She's slightly younger than Zadorsky, but yeah. Good option.
They need that rotation. It's the main problem that West Ham have got at the moment, and Says comes in and gives you that a decent option to help rotate, and I think that's the main thing as well. When you're at the bottom, if you do get an injury or a player does need a rest, you need that rotation to be of decent quality, and I think that's what they've done here.
Yeah, and then Ines Belumu, the other fullback we spoke about a moment ago, they signed her from Bayern Munich and then loaned her to Lazio. Why? I don't really know. Guess they didn't think she was ready for WSL football yet, but they're in a real... If these players don't come back next year and they're not in the WSL, they could be very annoyed. But yeah, and then Shelina Zadorsky, they've signed permanently from Tottenham. She was on loan at the West Ham last season, so I think in that regard, she understands the club, she knows what's required of her, she knows the manager, all that sort of stuff. It makes a lot of sense to keep her around.
In a year, in a window where they've lost a few big players, it makes sense to keep someone that knows what they're doing. It builds consistency at the back.
Yeah, and a very solid player as well. Then we've got Manuela Pavi joining from Deportivo Cavi. She's...
Pavi from Cavi.
I was going to say, didn't realise that rhymed. But yeah, Pavi plays on the right-hand side. It definitely points towards them moving to the 4-2-3-1 they used at the end of the season permanently. They were playing a 3-5-2 for a lot of last season, but at the end of the campaign, they did go 4-2-3-1, and I think they'll move to that now. So that's going to be interesting to see how they handle that adjustment. But yeah, definitely pointing towards it by signing that right winger in Manuela Pavi. Serena Puibel also points to that, coming in from FC Zurich. She plays on left wing, 20 years old, very exciting young player.
Yeah.
A lot of West Ham's business has been very young, exciting players, but The issue for West Ham is they need players who are going to perform right now because they are in the relegation fight and they need to claw themselves out of that. So let's have a look how their squad looks on paper. It's very light.
Yes,
is how I would describe it because there's not a lot of players here. No. So they've got to try and sort that issue out. They just need to sign a couple more players, I think. In goal, they're fine. Zemic comes in and will do a great job there. I'm really excited to see King of Zemic in the league. Walsh as a backup as well is fine. At left back, they've got Smith. Now, Denton's also a left back, but I put a right back because apparently they've just forgotten they needed a right back because there isn't one at the club. Yeah. So I'm not really sure what they're doing there. But yeah, I think Denton's going to have to play out there for now. She played there at the back end of last season. They've still not signed a right back. I'm not really sure what's happening there. Smith and Denton are their only fullback options, which does leave them very light. I guess they've got centre halves who can play there. Zadorsky says can do a job at left back. Tisiak and Cook as well. They're the centre half options. Zadorsky says left centre half, Tisiak, Cook, the right centre halves. They can cover those fullbacks if need be, but they're very light in defensive areas. In midfield, they've got Gori and Mewis, who we could see line up as a pair, or we could see them partner one of Bergman Lundin or I'm struggling with the name. It's Icelandic.
Brynjarsdottir.
I like that. Brynjarsdottir. Fantastic. I think it will be Gori and Bergman Lundin to start the season. We may see that change up a lot, though. They've got enough midfielders in there that they've done well to replace Hayashi, so I think they're okay in that regard. On the left wing, they've got Vivian Asai and Poibel. We saw Asai play there at the end of last season. If they were to play two up front, then it would be her and Ueki, we expect, but I think she'll play on the left flank if they are going to play with a front three. On right wing, they've only got Pavi, but they've got players who can go out there. I think Bergman Lundin could play there, so I think they're okay in that regard. In attack midfield, they've got Ziyu and Harry's, two options in there. I think they'll be absolutely fine. Yeah. And then obviously leading the line, it is just Ueki. Wow. It's a very small squad, and I think with deadline day, we're recording this on deadline day. If there wasn't to be another signing ruining our video now, I would be surprised. Because obviously this goes out Sunday. West Ham are very light in a lot of areas. So I think they need some more players. Maybe they can rely on youth. However, when I was looking through their youth squad, a lot of their higher rated prospects are midfield players. Yeah. And that's the only position on the pitch that I'm confident they don't need anymore. So, I have no idea.
It's a tough scenario to be in for West Ham, unless they're going to have one of the most mental deadline days in all of WSL history. You guys will know, we don't. I think the squad, they're going to have to rely on the first 11 performing because the rotation just isn't there. If they get a couple injuries, they're in a really tough spot.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think last season they were fortunate in the fact that Bristol City didn't offer much of a challenge. I think this season they could be in for a tough time. I think they're going to be in the relegation scrapping with the quality of Crystal Palace. I think Everton are also down there as well at the moment. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I think West Ham are in trouble. Going to be honest, I think West Ham are in a bit of trouble. We will see how their season unfolds. But it's going to be a difficult one. Let's have a look at their first 5 games, though. They open up the season with an away trip to Manchester United, which is very difficult. They then welcome Liverpool at home, then Manchester City away, Everton away, and then Arsenal at home going into the international break. It's a very difficult start to the season. Everton, for me, is the crunch match. I don't think they'll pick up any other points, if I'm honest. Man United, Liverpool, City, Arsenal, unless they pull off some huge surprise again. That's going to be maximum 3 points in the first 5 games, which is not the way you want to start the season.
If they lose to Everton, they're on 0 points from 5 games, realistically, if we're using our knowledge and we're being reasonable. It's one of the worst top first 5 fixtures I think I've seen of the whole league. They have got the toughest first 5. It's going to be really tough. And when you're a side that are threatened by relegation, it's important to build momentum early. Don't get on the back foot. Don't be the side that is bottom of the league early doors, because then you lose belief and you lose motivation, and suddenly you end up further off the teams above you. Yeah. But I don't think West Ham can help it. They've got a horrible run.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I know a lot of people will say, well, everyone plays the same teams across the season, but you'd rather have the points than the fixtures. Yeah. Because if they take nothing from this first 5, yes, obviously that means they've not, they've played 4 of what's probably going to be the top 6 by match week 5, and then that only leaves the bottom half teams, and obviously Chelsea and Tottenham and Aston Villa as well, quite good. But they'll have no momentum at that point because they've lost 5 in a row. Now I think Everton, they were hoping to get a point at least. That's the kind of game they need to be winning realistically if they want to stay up this season. But Yeah, it's a tough first five for West Ham. I think there's no shying away from that.
Yeah, it's one of those where when you actually look at the core squad, you've got a good goalkeeper, you've got a back line who at times can hold it together, but can struggle. But at times they're decent, a very good goalkeeper. And then you look at players like Ueki and Ziyu and Asai, they can score some goals. The problem for West Ham is that can the attack score goals consistently? I think so. Can the defence hold strong consistently? I don't know. And as soon as if you pick up one injury in the attacking area and one injury in the defensive area, which you would expect because you're playing a WSL campaign, or you've got 3 competitions, if you're going to pick up a couple of injuries, that's football. As soon as a couple of injuries come in, West Ham are in a really tough spot because suddenly they're down to a really bare bones 11.
Yeah, I don't think all hope is lost. I think there's still some really talented players. As you say, in attacking areas, I think Katrina Gorey had a really good season last year, and if she keeps that up, they're going to be good. They've got Christy Mewis coming into the side. Obviously, they signed her in January. She's been out with injury all of last season. So whether she can have a big enough impact or not will be interesting. But yeah, I'm just not confident in West Ham's ability to beat the drop this year. I think they're in a really tough spot. Yeah. And Palace look really good.
I think what will decide whether West Ham stay up or not is individual quality. If you're right, if Gorey can deliver and Ueki can score goals and Desai can help out, and if
King Ajemic just saves everything, they might be all right. They won't concede a goal.
Exactly. So, but it does. I feel like for West Ham, they're going to rely on individual quality next season to stay in the league.
Yeah, they are in a tough spot. I'll be intrigued to see if anything happens later today on deadline day. But yes, that is everything for our West Ham preview. Look out over this week because we are finished the previews now. You can go and watch all of them though, and that will only take you a few hours. So go and watch all of that and you'll have great knowledge on all the WSL clubs going into this season. This week we've got all our exciting WSL. We're continuing to build up to this WSL season. We're going to be talking about whatever happens on Monday morning. So tomorrow there's a big announcement coming from the WSL regarding next season, the 25-26 campaign. So look out for that. We're going to be reacting to that as soon as the news drops, hopefully. Then we've got our fantasy WSL teams. We're going to be telling you who we've picked and, of course, sharing the league code. So make sure to look out for that. And we will be doing our predictions coming later this week. So very exciting stuff. But the season is upon us. This Friday, the season gets back underway. So make sure to go and give yesterday's preview a click because that will be on the screen now where we spoke about Tottenham. But that is everything from us today. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.